What hobbies did you have in between gaming as a child and starting to collect again in the late 90s?
Whoa. I always liked comic books, reading, and collecting. I used to actually read most of the comics I bought, even older ones. Carefully take them out, watch out for the tape, read through your 1979 Bronze Age book that's worth only $7, but you're still careful with it. So collecting comic books. I still play with action figures up until I was like 13. So at that point though, it was like the X-Men TV show was on, so I liked the X-Men figures. That was like the last action figure I probably had was like that I played with was like X-Men figures.
Right.
So I went from like G.I. Joe and He-Man, or He-Man to G.I. Joe, and then Ninja Turtles, X-Men / Marvel figures. That was like the 4 types of toys I had. But
I always loved the stupid weapons they gave like some of the Marvel figures that had absolutely nothing to do with like their actual powers.
I'm trying to remember.
Wolverine with wrist rockets. It's like, no.
No, he didn't have wrist rockets. They gave him a sword. He didn't have wrist rockets. But those were cool though. This is a tangent, but like the first Punisher figure had a snapback to put caps in.
Yeah, I know. My brother had it.
The first Venom figures I had came with this really awful goo that could stain your carpet, this purple goo that they then got rid of for the re-release and just gave you a thing to put water in to spray out his chest. But originally it was this black goo. Remember the Ninja Turtles green can of shit?
Yeah, every action figure line had a figure that came with a can of ooze.
It was like this non-toxic gelatin shit because they thought kids would probably eat it, and they're probably right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that was. But I went into comic books. Then I started collecting Star Wars toys in high school. Went to toy shows. Had a pretty good collection of Star Wars toys. Mostly, at the end I had about 100 loose figures, and that's pretty good because there was only about 120 figures between 77 and 85 that came out. I'd say 80% with the weapons because you can find weapons back then. Maybe even garage sales. I found bags of weapons. That was so good when you found Star Wars stuff at garage sales back in the mid late 90s. Oh man! But I would go to thrift stores, and then I had about 25 to 30, maybe 25 vehicles, either loose or some in the box. I had the little Wampa in the box. Damn, I got rid of that. And I had the play sets in the box. I had the Death Star PlayStation, or playset in the box, PlayStation. PlayStation. It was a PlayStation, Death Star Station. Then I had a bunch of like stuff like the Cantina, the Hoth playset, things like that. Got rid of it all. After Phantom Menace. That's when I got rid of them, and I even had a few carded figures. So that was my hobbies.
For me, I never really stopped playing games, but there was a period where it slowed down. I think what kind of overtook games, not replaced them, but there's 2 things that I, maybe 3. One, I read obsessively.
I used to read too.
Shit, I wish I could read the way I used to. I mean, we're talking a couple books a week, and we're not talking small ones. We're talking, fairly large books I would just read constantly. I got really into music in terms of, that was when I started DJing. I was 14 or 15. And I started getting into some music production. And the other one that was big for me was computer programming. I don't really know a lick of code these days, but back then I fucking loved it. And I started with like BASIC and then moved on to C++. I even dabbled in weird shit just to dabble in it, like Turbo Pascal. Just because it was interesting to me. I actually really miss programming, but I don't have the time, or honestly, I don't think I have the concentration right now to sit down and dedicate myself to learning anything again, which is a shame because it was something that I loved a lot from my youth. I didn't stop doing it because I didn't like it. Well, kind of. I stopped going to college for it because I didn't want that to be my career. But I kind of lost the ability and the time. So maybe someday.
I know QBasic a little bit. I remember QBasic.
Yeah, QBasic.
I can do a choose your own adventure game. Pat Eaton's choose your own adventure text game.